Greetings, and welcome, fellow travelers of the void. Please do come in. Pull up a chair, grab yourself a drink and a snack, and let us begin. I Knew a Human, an HFY story by user Going Over That Cliff. Tired and somewhat bored, the Axian consul silently retreated to his species' quarters as the playful melodies and romantic waltzes echoed through the grand and elegant palace. Had already enough, uncle?
Yes, dear nephew. Mind if I take a seat next to you?
The young adjutant extended his arm towards the chair opposite him with a bright smile. As the diplomat sat down, his brother's son poured some hot beverage to quell his thirst and to calm his senses.
This is,
sputtered the weary Axian as his pupils widened after taking a sip from the cup. Darjeeling, first flush. It just came as a gift. Apparently one of the finest batches of the season. Uncle, are you feeling well? He worriedly asked after noticing the pale look on his face.
I'm sorry, I'm fine. I haven't tasted this in a while. A long while,
replied the venerable politician with a sad, concealed undertone, one that would have gone unnoticed by most. Is there something you want to tell me, uncle? Said the other, having picked up the sorrow hidden under many years of experience on the political stage.
Well, we still have plenty of time before someone comes looking for me. Mind if I tell you a story? It's sort of a burden that I've been carrying all this time, unbeknownst to everyone.
Hearing these words, the young Axian put down his drink and assumed an appropriate posture. As the background music lightened the atmosphere, the consul began to speak softly.
As you well know, long before I stepped into the political landscape, I used to sail the cosmos, navigate the stars.
His nephew was very well acquainted with the numerous travels and findings of his uncle, as all Axians did. The one sitting before him was considered a modern-day hero by his people, someone who relegated everything and everyone on the sideline to pursue knowledge, to discover the unknown.
I was just an adolescent when I departed for the first time. How silly of me. When I was merely 62 years old, all I wanted was to leave my parents' house, escape from my clan's suffocating grasp. I wanted to be free. I wanted to feel free.
The consul drank in another heartfelt sip, taking a moment to breathe in, to let his taste bulbs fully appreciate the reminiscing aroma.
I had everywhere to go, but no destination or purpose. For a couple of years I drifted here and there, visiting many famous planets and renowned stations, trying to find something that would catch my fleeting interest in life. Then I stumbled onto Earth. What I found on that newly discovered planet was truly mind-blowing, but that's a story for another time. Of much more importance is who I found. The Axian gently brought the cup to his lips before resuming his story. Her name was Lucy. She was a young human female of 27 years who had just completed her higher education. I was wasting my time in a particular establishment that served mainly brewed beverages. Back then, despite all the wonders surrounding me, I was at my lowest. Venting out of an airlock or going for a never-ending spacewalk, these and many other dark thoughts kept tormenting my mind to no end. From the outside, I must have looked miserable. Empty, lightless eyes slumped on the table of this so-called cafe. The uncle gently gestured to his nephew to pour some more tea as the cup was empty. Out of nowhere, this human sat down next to me, shoving my shoulder and yelling in my ears. She insisted that we share a drink. And here we are. More than 7 centuries later, I can still remember her as if it were yesterday. Her bright smile and sharp gaze permanently carved her image in my mind. Uncle, are you sure you want to continue? It's not a problem if this matter is uncomfortable to you, interrupted the nephew, noticing the clear trembling in the voice and gloominess in his elder's gaze, to which he replied not to worry about it. She was very curious and kind, at least to me. To cheer me up, she offered me a drink. I half expected an extremely alcoholic beverage, one that would either poison me to death or stun me for the following 6 hours. I was pleasantly surprised when the waitress put that steaming teapot in front of me. The intensity of the aroma and the decisive taste made me forget all the worries in my admittedly pathetic existence. That was the first time I tasted Darjeeling. We started talking. Speaking to Lucy was very comforting. Like a caring teacher, she would quietly and carefully listen to all of my first world problems and troubles for hours and hours, long after the sun had set over the horizon. As the store was closing, she asked me to meet her at the same cafe the following day, at the same time. "And I'm guessing you did, Uncle," exclaimed the adjutant while lighting a cigarette stuck between his lips. For a whole week I spent every afternoon drinking tea and talking to that human about our problems, complaining about our mundane lives. Our problems? Was she in the similar situation to yours? Sort of. While I left my clan of my own will, Lucy's family disowned her. Her parents had other ideas regarding her profession. They insisted she follow the family tradition and become a lawyer. So she ran off. Instead of law, she majored in astrophysics and dreamt of exploring the universe. The nephew was visibly astonished, having pieced together the bits and pieces of the puzzle his uncle sprinkled about, hidden in his story. "I think you understand where I'm getting to. Well, what are a few human years for someone like me, fated to live for 1,000, I told myself. There I was, with a boatload of money and nothing to do, while she was penniless, with everything to accomplish. Out of boredom, or maybe intrigued, I asked her if she wanted to come with me, aimlessly sail the solar winds, or look under the rocks on desert planets. She said yes." "So that's how you started your legendary career as a space explorer?" "Not exactly, my dear nephew. There's still half a century before that. With my unlimited funds, I bought a modest ship. She wasn't the fastest nor the prettiest, but she was highly modular, which would come in handy later on as, over the years, we kept adding sensors and workstations to expand our scientific capabilities. How funny. I wanted to name my ship something cool like Voidbreaker or Star Cruiser, but she insisted on naming her Voyager in honor of humanity's early space age." Taking a sip every few sentences, word after word, the old Axian kept lightening the mysterious burden on his consciousness. As he continued speaking, it was clear that reminiscing and sharing his experiences filled him with pride and joy, even if he did not realize it. "For over 4 decades we traveled far and wide, mapping and exploring this mysterious ocean of stars that Terrans call the Milky Way. Here and there, some of the random outcasts would join the crew for a couple of expeditions, but most of the time it was only the two of us. Time with her flew by. Touring the universe with Lucy gave me uncountable memorable experiences and allowed me to see the true unfiltered beauty of the primordial offsprings of physics, the celestial bodies. I will forever be grateful to her." "I'm sorry to interrupt you, Uncle, but as you said earlier, human lifespan is much shorter than ours. You said that you spent over 40 years with her. What happened after? She should have been around 80 by then. A Terran of that age would be considered almost venerable by our standards." "Yes, that's true," replied the consul. His eyes lightly watered with salty tears. The young Axian was confused and unsure how to react to this sudden show of emotions from the usually cold and methodic politician. "One day, she was gone. While moored at a space station, she removed the transponder and set off with Voyager while I was asleep. She only left me a simple sorry, written on a sachet of Darjeeling tea, my favorite." "Why would she do that?" "It's something that I would not know for years to come, many years. After finding out, I was confused, outraged, and sad. I quickly acquired another ship, the fastest and most advanced in production back then, and set out to find her. I spent a decade looking for her far and wide, following the faint trail of crumbs that she left wherever she went. Through nebulae and asteroid fields, passing by neutron stars and black holes, I eventually reached the end of the Orion Arm. There, after 2 decades of frantic search, I found the Voyager. Powerless, drifting through intergalactic space with the cockpit proudly pointing towards our bright mass of stars we call galaxy. After the first dozen years, I gave up on finding her still breathing, as the human hourglass is much shorter than ours. Still, for those years I felt alive while searching for someone I knew passed away.
The nephew was so memorized and intrigued by the mournful and enigmatic story his uncle was unfolding before him that he forgot to smoke his cigarette, as it was now consumed whole and turned into ash between his fingers before he could even realize it. "What happened then?" he impatiently asked.
I boarded the ship and found a data log, which had been waiting for me for God knows how long. Its contents answered all the decades-old questions and painfully weighted down my heart.
"Hello. I hope this message finds you well. I know I left in a hurry, but to tell the truth, I was scared and insecure. I didn't want you to see me grow old, see me wither away under your eternally youthful eyes. I didn't want your last memories of me to be an old, bedridden, delusional lady fed through a straw. Don't worry. My death was painless, and I passed away doing what I love most, looking at the stars. Sorry if I stole your ship. I treated her well. She should be ready to go any time, even filled her with fuel. On the main computer, you will find the data of all the research and discoveries we have accumulated over the years. It's all yours now. Don't look for me. I'm going for one last walk. It's all thanks to you. It's thanks to you that I could achieve my dream. It's thanks to you that I could have a fulfilling existence. And it's thanks to you that I was never alone. Thank you. Thank you for having been with me on this journey. My safari might have ended, but yours has many more stages left. Take the Voyager and do what its namesake calls for. My last will is for you to turn around, look at our beautiful galaxy, and remember me not for my death, but for my life." The young Axion was speechless, motionless. Not all the words in the unified vocabulary could express the storm of emotions raging in his mind. "So, all the research that made you famous, it was this human's lifelong work?"
"Yes, sort of. A life of pure fondness and dedication to the subject. To say it's hers solely would be a disservice to me, my dear nephew. Don't you think I would have quit that whole thing if I was not interested? At first, I approached it as a momentary pastime, an activity like any other to try out as our time in this universe slowly crawls by, inching forward. But her joyfulness, her passion, and her brightness made me change my mind. I fell in love with exploration, discovery, and the search for knowledge."
"So what did you do then?"
"I simply resumed the work I had put on hold years before to find her. I went back to studying the cosmos, although before that I had some unsettled matters to close."
"Like what?"
"Even if she never mentioned or asked for it, I had the duty to grant her a proper funeral, even if only symbolically."
The nephew stood silent, as Axions have different traditions and burial standards than most species in the galaxy. Given their widely different life expectancies and general lack of significant interpersonal emotions, they tend to care less about these practices.
"You see, humans don't leave their dead behind, as they never forget them. So I had to bring her home. Something of her, at least. Even if she strayed from Earth most of her life, Lucy always told me that, despite all its flaws, there's nothing like home. As clever as she was, I guess Lucy never predicted the leaps in technology her people achieved while she was wandering around. I can't imagine what she would have said had she known that her sister was still alive. And even more impossible to predict was how she would have reacted if she had known that they had forgiven her. Her mother, her father, everyone forgave her for running off, and her parents waited until their last breaths for their lost daughter to knock on the door, to tell her, 'We will always love you.' Although they are reunited now, I don't know how long it took for her to eventually start inquisitively looking around, trying to study the strange phenomenon of heaven. So, that's how you became an explorer. Now it's all clear. No wonder my father told me you disappeared for a century or so. It's a story I've not told in detail to anyone yet. You are the first Axian to hear most of it. I hope it didn't bore you. Not at all, Uncle. Quite the opposite. I never knew this side of you. Are you planning to tell the galactic community about this? I will entrust the Voyager and all its data logs to the humans. After all, even a ship deserves to rest at home. Even if she was always against becoming famous and receiving recognition, I think enough time has passed for her struggles to be known. It's not like the journalists can pester her with stupid questions now. The nephew nodded and lit a second cigarette to properly consume it this time. So, Uncle, can I ask you one last thing? Sure, why not? Is she the reason you never married? The explorer of the stars tried to hide a playful grin by bringing a hot, steaming cup of Darjeeling to his lips. He laughingly replied, Sure, why not? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I am the Casual Deathworlder, your host, and this has been I Knew a Human by user Going Over That Cliff, the first non-Deathworlder or non-Jenkinsverse HFY story that I have done. I hope you enjoyed it. I'd like to give a shout out to my editor, Graygor. Yo! And, of course, to Going Over That Cliff for the permission. Thank you, dude. I love this story. I really, really do. I hope everybody else loves it as much as I do. I hope my voice wasn't too bad, folks. I'm just getting over some sort of funk. I don't know quite what it was, but ew. And next up on the menu after this will be The Deathworlders Chapter 6. Enjoy. And also, as this is basically a love story, I'd actually like to dedicate this to my loving wife, who will actually probably never actually listen to it. Oh well. Let's see. Question, who's got the question? Oh yes. Who else is excited for the release of Dune 2? Just watched the 7-minute preview with the sandworm, and oh my god, my brain melted. Leave your opinions in the comments down below. And in the meantime, y'all take it easy, be safe, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.